I've worked for volume manufacturers in the timber engineering industry for almost 36 years, with nearly 10 of them being spent at Wiehag. Most of my time has been at the sort of front end of the business in sort of sales and commercial. But I've also run a design group, national contracts, worked in customer services on there. And in all the businesses I've worked for, they've all been large volume manufacturers and subcontractors. So all the projects, I spent a lot of my time actually working on real projects, large value subcontract projects in the UK and Ireland. They're an Austrian glulam manufacturer and subcontractor, and they've been around 170 years. They're still family owned, and the Wiesner family are very much at the helm still of moving forward as the next generation is starting to get into the business. So they're based in northern Austria, Altheim, and they have a really amazing high-tech factory full of all really great cutting edge sort of CNC machinery, has its design office built on site as well with 25 guys and girls. And so we offer detailed design, manufacture, supply and installation. And we've been really getting involved in some of the most complicated timber engineering projects ever carried out on the planet. The trouble is that on the social media, you see every product seems to be the wonder solution. But I think, with timber, as well as being genuinely sustainable, recyclable, energy efficient to produce, it is the only building material used in construction that is renewable. Okay, apart from thatch, but it is the only material, and all the other building materials used are finite, and so there's a limited amount of them. The world's population is growing, and really timber is the only material that can keep pace with this demand, and that never seems to be brought up when people are talking about the climate emergency, the fact that the population is growing and what we're using, 2 planets worth of resources, but timber. And quite often we get hit with, oh, you're cutting down all the trees to use for your building. But if you grow trees to use it commercially, like it is in Europe under sustainable schemes like PEFC, then it actually causes forests more than to be planted. And in Europe, since about 2004 or something, an area the size of Switzerland has become new forest in Europe. So it's bucking the trend for the rest of the world. So I really think timber is not the answer to everything. It's just part of the palette of materials to be used in construction, but it really is got to be part of the solution, because every other material is going to start running out. But if timber's properly managed, it really is the answer for providing structures for this growing population. It's a bit of a no-brainer, really, because it's such a great thing, the forest, as well as providing the structure for us. While it's growing there, it's capturing carbon. And there's a lot of misinformation about carbon, like when you cut a tree down, people saying the CO2 explodes out of it, and all this sort of fake news about it is very frustrating. And it's really, everyone in industry has got to try and combat that. Timber used to be perceived as an old-fashioned material, but the changes in design software, production software, and also installation, the cherry pickers and mutes and cranes we use now have revolutionized it and turned it into this low carbon sort of building solution for the 21st century. But it used to be like steel and concrete were the sort of thing, and timber's very old. But now we're seeing this new engineered timber of just taking very simple softwood and using this sort of engineering process, you can create really amazing freeform organic shapes. And we're challenging designers to come up with, and when I'll be doing my talk, I'll be showing some of the things we're doing, really, which really sort of just so crazy looking. They're not only sort of technically possible, they're sort of commercially possible to create in timber. I work in the UK, and we find that in certain sectors that we work in, sustainable materials like timber are not the first or even the second choice. And it's not really surprising when you consider in the UK, the vast majority of the engineers train on steel and concrete, and have very little experience on how to properly design in timber. So this tends to lead projects that could be used timber very effectively don't. So education and it is starting to happen a bit, but I think I know when I was at college, structural timber was a very much, I did everything building. It was, it's glossed over very quickly. And so it does need to have more education starting at school, I think, really. I do. I think an independent third-party certification scheme is really vital to protect the credibility of the timber industry, because without it, you'd very soon see illegally logged timber getting its way into the chain. And rather than just the current, it's a nice feature to have if it fits in the budget sort of thing, timber, I think sustainability will become a much more important factor for future construction as these resources do start to get more finite. And I think PEFC, because it provides the mechanism to robustly demonstrate this compliance to all parties, it's a vital part of the chain, really. So it is a really important as part of it, because our clients, their biggest fear is one day waking up having Extinction Rebellion outside saying you're using rainforest timber on your project. Whereas we know when we're using PEFC, really high percentages of it. I try and explain to people that how in these European forests they grow their trees is how we in England grow wheat, just on a 70-year cycle instead of on a yearly one. And each time they cut a field down, they plant another one. And in 70 years, and at that time, it's gobbled up as much CO2 as it's likely to. They cut it down, all of the tree gets used, and the farmers, they grow it, and they've been there for years. And using the PEFC scheme is just a great way. They're all in it to demonstrate all the way down the chain that everyone using it is in it. And just on that thing of when you cut a tree down, when we make glulam elements, about a third of the timber you get in turns into waste, sawdust and offcuts. And rather than it going to landfill, Wiehag, like all the other big producers in Europe, we all have our own biomass power station on site. And so all that waste timber, it turns into free energy for us. So all our electricity and heat needs, because all our factories are air conditioned to get that moisture content down to 12%, same as the room you're sitting in now, and use a lot of heat when you're kiln drying. So we don't rely on any gas from Mr. Putin. We are totally self-sufficient on our waste. So it's a great closed circuit. So they've been doing this in Europe for years, and it's not trying to be green, it's just good business sense. And so the whole thing with using schemes like PEFC, we're able to just demonstrate we're closing that loop off. And it's a great story, really. I think even from the end of life with timber, you can do stuff with it. The worst case, you can just turn it into biofuel, or you can chop it up and reuse it in smaller bit. I don't know. It's not like other things that are ever going to cause the planet a problem.